A little girl followed her mother to an animal shelter to pick a puppy, but found herself witnessing the moment when a sick pit bull was about to be euthanized. That's when the girl approached him and did something shocking. "Stop! Please don't do it!" The sharp, panicked cry of a little girl pierced through the quiet corridor of the animal shelter. The shout was so unexpected that the shelter worker fumbled with the leash she was holding, the door to the metal cage already half open. Inside the cage, a sickly pit bull lay curled up in the corner, his body trembling as if he knew what was coming next. The shelter worker, Miss Jenkins, glanced over her shoulder in shock. Behind her stood a small blonde girl with wide, pleading eyes and a voice full of urgency. How had she even found her? Visitors never entered this room. The girl had burst through the doors just as Miss Jenkins was about to lead the pit bull to his final destination. "Sweetheart, this isn't a favorable time," she began, trying to maintain her composure. But the girl wouldn't be swayed. "Please don't let this dog die," she begged. Miss Jenkins looked at the pit bull. His ribs were visible beneath his dull, patchy fur. His eyes were clouded with sickness, and his body barely moved. This dog had been through so much, and his time had run out. But the desperation in the girl's voice made her pause. Rex had been at the shelter for far too long, his illness draining the meager resources they had. No one had come forward to adopt him, and his condition had only worsened. This was the only choice left, or so they told themselves. Miss Jenkins swallowed hard. Euthanasia was mercy, a kindness. Rex wouldn't suffer anymore. But seeing the little girl, doubt gnawed at her. The leash remained in her hand, the cage door open, with Rex lying still, resigned. A woman appeared behind the girl, breathless but sensing the gravity of the moment. Claire placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder, but the girl was transfixed by the pit bull. "Mom," the girl whispered, her voice trembling. "Look at him." Claire's gaze followed her daughter's to the frail, shallow-breathing dog. "Torn," Claire said softly, "Emma, we should let them do their job." But her words lacked conviction. Emma shook her head. "No, not yet." Miss Jenkins glanced at the vet tech waiting nearby. Time seemed to stretch, the room heavy with indecision. "Please," Emma whispered, her voice urgent. Claire sighed, kneeling beside her. "Sweetheart, this dog is very sick. Sometimes we have to make hard choices." But Emma's eyes stayed fixed on Rex. Suddenly, she reached through the bars, her small hand trembling. The pit bull blinked, tilting his head as he sniffed, his gaze settling on her outstretched fingers. Claire held her breath, heart pounding, while Miss Jenkins stood frozen. No one moved. Time stood still as Emma's fingers brushed Rex's nose. He didn't flinch or growl, but simply looked at her, tired and sad. Emma knelt, her face near Rex's. "It's okay," she whispered gently. Earlier that morning, Emma had woken with an unamiable mix of excitement and anxiety. Today, they were finally visiting the animal shelter. After months of asking, Claire had agreed to look at dogs. "We'll look," Claire had said, making it clear they wouldn't bring home a dog just because it looked cute. Emma's heart, however, was already set on finding a dog who needed her as much as she needed it. Inside the shelter, Emma eagerly searched each cage for her new friend. Puppies wagged their tails, and some barked excitedly. But at the far end of the room, she found a still, silent pit bull. She knelt by his cage, her heart heavy at his frail body and dull coat. "Mom," she whispered. "He looks so sad." Claire knelt beside her, feeling her own heart ache. "Sweetie, he's very sick," Claire said gently. "I don't know if we can help him." Emma shook her head, her eyes on the pit bull. "He just needs someone to love him." When Miss Jenkins approached, her face was somber. "I'm sorry, but he's scheduled to be euthanized today. We've tried everything, but he hasn't improved." The word euthanized echoed coldly in Emma's mind. She couldn't let it happen. Now, back in the room, Emma reached through the bars, her fingers brushing Rex's fur. The pit bull blinked, his eyes focusing with something like curiosity. Claire and Miss Jenkins watched as Emma whispered softly to him, her voice warm and kind. Slowly, Rex leaned forward, pressing his nose against her hand. The room remained still, the air thick with tension. Miss Jenkins felt the leash in her hand slacken as she let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The vet tech shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to do next. Then, without a word, Emma did something unexpected. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. She unfolded it carefully, her hands shaking as she smoothed it out on the floor. Miss Jenkins, Claire, and the vet tech stared at the paper, uncertain of what they were seeing. It was a child's drawing of a dog with a heart above his head, alongside the words, "Asterisk, I'll be your friend." Asterisk. In that moment, everything became clear. Emma had come prepared, fully believing that this sick, broken dog was meant to be hers. She'd written him a promise before she even met him. Claire stared at her daughter in disbelief. "Emma, honey, we can't just—" "Yes, we can," Emma interrupted, her voice steady. "He needs us, Mom. He needs me." Miss Jenkins, still watching, felt her heart soften. "I have to be honest with you," she said. "Rex isn't well. He's been here a long time and needs a lot of care. We were planning to, well, put him down." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't back down. "That's why we have to help him. We can make him better, right, Mom?" Claire looked from her daughter to the pit bull. She saw the way Rex looked at Emma, his eyes seeming to plead for a second chance. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "Okay, we'll take him." Miss Jenkins couldn't hide her surprise. "You will?" "Yes," Claire said firmly. "We'll take him home and do whatever it takes to make him better." And so, against all odds, Rex left the shelter that day, not with a sense of finality, but with a new beginning. The first few weeks were hard. Rex needed constant care, medications, and vet visits. But Emma never left his side, always there to comfort him, stroke his fur, and whisper words of encouragement. Gradually, Rex improved. His fur grew back, his eyes cleared, and his energy returned. He went from a dog who could barely lift his head to one who chased Emma around the yard, tail wagging. More than that, Rex became a protector, always by Emma's side. Not everyone in the neighborhood was thrilled about their new addition. Some whispered about the dangerous pit bull. Claire tried to ignore them, but doubt crept in. One night, she sat with Emma. "Are you sure about Rex?" she asked gently. "Is he really the right dog for us?" Emma looked at her mother, her eyes full of confidence. "Mom, Rex would never hurt anyone. He just needed someone to believe in him." Claire hoped her daughter was right. Then, one day, a stray cat wandered into their yard. Rex spotted the cat and took off. Claire's heart stopped, afraid of what might happen, but Rex stopped just short. He looked at the cat, then back at Emma, and backed away, his tail wagging uncertainly. Emma knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "It's okay, Rex," she whispered. "You're a good boy." In that moment, Claire knew her daughter had been right all along. Months passed, and Rex became a beloved member of the family, transformed by the love of a little girl who had seen something in him that no one else did. As the sun set one evening, Claire watched Emma and Rex play in the yard, marveling at how much their lives had changed since that day at the shelter. Rex had gone from a dog about to be euthanized to one filled with love, joy, and second chances, all because a little girl believed in him when no one else did. Have you ever witnessed a small act of compassion that changed a life? What would you do if you were in Emma's position, facing the choice to save a sick dog that others had given up on? Share your thoughts and experiences below. And thank you for joining us for this heartwarming tale of love and second chances.